Erik,
What's up, man?
it's been a long time.
Been a long time.
We've known each other a long time.
Whew. Yeah, going on 12 years, something like that. Yeah.
It's been a minute. Why don't you, we're just going to jump into it. We're going to shoot the shit. I have nothing driven for this episode except for just sitting down and having a conversation with you. I know you've been through a lot in your military life.
Yeah,
And
short military life. Yeah.
short span of it. And before moving on to the civilian world and starting a family and going to school and
Yeah.
just living life now. So let's just get an intro. We're going to dump
Let's do
into it and let the people know. And I know the audience loves to hear some crazy war stories, which I know you got a pretty interesting one.
I don't have many.
Yeah. So,
but let's jump into it.
yeah. Who are you? Where are you from?
Yeah. So, Erik from Dallas. Friends call me G. And I joined the Marine Corps out of high school. Didn't know really what to do. My older brother had already joined the Marine Corps, and he knew since he was biting ankles that that's where he was going to go.
Since he was eating crayons.
Yeah, sniffing glue, licking the walls, wearing a helmet.
Perfect Marine.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So he had joined, and when it's time for me to finish high school and figure out what I'm gonna do with life, I was like, I don't know. There's a lot of us kids collectively. My parents, had kids with their respective spouses, so there's a lot of us collectively. I'm not really wasn't like a big school kid, like, oh, let's go to college. But I also didn't want to go and like flip burgers for minimum wage either.
For
So I
sure.
was like, I don't know what to do. And so my brother was like, you know what, just join the Marine Corps or just join the military and you can see the world. And if anything, at the end of it, just go to school and then figure out life, but at least you get a few years to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to the local recruiters, and I'm going like one by one, trying to figure it out. And I called my brother. He was doing infantry training at the time, so he'd get like weekends off. And so I called him up. And I'm excited. I'm like, yo, like I talked to recruiters. And he's like, okay, cool. Who are you gonna go with? And I was like, man, like I don't know. I was gonna think maybe like the Coast Guard. I was a punk kid. I was like, I just want to coast. I just want to.
Uh-huh.
He's like, no. Like no brother of mine's gonna join the military and not be a Marine. I didn't know no better. He was drinking the Kool-Aid for sure. So I didn't know
For
any
sure.
better. And so
He's still young.
yeah. So I called up the Marine recruiter and I'm like, hey, like I want to join. You don't have to come and pitch me anything. You have to sign it. Like, do your whole save your spiel. I'm joining, guaranteed. And he's like, man, easy day in the office for that guy.
Right.
And so he shows up. He does the, what do you want to do in the Marine Corps and this and that. And I was like, I don't know. Like every Marine wants to be a cop. And I was like, MP, motor T, I don't know. Like I just, something that I can just kind of skate by. And so they had me down for military police, motor T, and I forget what the last one was. 'Cause you get like 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm pumped. So next time my brother gets like Liberty on the weekend, I call him up. Boom, 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 boom. Yo, guess what? I signed the paperwork, He's like, cool, what's your MOS? I was like, well, I think it's like an MP or motor T. Or was like, no.
He's like, hell no.
He's like,
No.
no brother of mine's can join the Marine Corps and not be a goddamn infantryman. And I'm like, okay. I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So I call my recruiter up. Yo, it's not going to work. I got to be an infantry. And
He's like, you are a recruiter's wet dream.
yeah, he was like, boom, perfect. And he's like, well, we have no openings right now because I think it was like later in the year. It was like December or something when I like did all my paperwork. Like, there's no openings right now, so what we can do is just kind of keep it as is. But if something comes up, I'll plug you into the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough with me. At least I'm not going open contract. And so that's how it was. Then I graduated in like June. And
What year is this?
2009.
Okay.
And I want to say right before I graduated, I got a call from the recruiter, and he's like, somebody dropped out. They can't go, so there's an infantry spot open if you want it, but you leave in like, it wasn't like super soon after graduation, but it was like soon.
Yeah.
Like,
you weren't having the summer home.
right. Like my brother left the next day. Like he got his diploma and shipped out the next day. Mine wasn't that short.
Okay.
Mine was like, I got a couple weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure, boom, plug me in. And that was it. That's all she wrote. And so I shipped out, had my birthday in boot camp. And
Where'd you go to boot camp?
in San Diego.
How was that? So did you ever travel beforehand, or are you strictly Texas and then now you're in San Diego for the first time?
So we went to Florida once as a kid, but
Okay.
we did like a lot of stuff to Galveston, driving distance,
Yeah.
fishing in the coast. Went to Mexico a few times. My dad had some family still down there, so we go to Mexico, and then it just got too bad, so we stopped going.
So now you go from Dallas to San Diego. What's that like, landing in San Diego?
Well, so we get there, and like I already sort of knew what to expect. My brother kind of gave me the lowdown. And then we get to like receiving. I'm in San Diego, but you really don't know because you're at MCRD, so you're in California, but you're like you don't know anything. And boot camp was, it was boot camp. I don't have really many funny stories, really.
Yeah.
I couldn't climb the rope. You have to like do your legs and you twist.
Some dudes struggle on that for sure.
But I was pretty fixed. I played sports, so I would just muscle my way up there.
Yep.
But they wouldn't count it because I wasn't doing it properly, so it'd make me do it multiple times, just up and down. And I got smoked one day, and I was at the very top, and the drill instructor said, "You need to come down." And I can't make it. And he's like, "You better fucking get down this rope." And I let go, the very top, and I crashed to the bottom, and with like a thud, I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You stupid," and he's like, "If you would have broken whatever." And so I got a pretty good ass one, and then I got IT'd right after that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have any really funny. I know some people have some funny stories from boot camp, but I just don't remember.
Some dudes cruise, man. Like the little fly on the wall recruits. I mean, there's a lot of dudes that get through.
So I just cruised through, left boot camp, and went home to do like recruiting training while I waited for infantry school to pick up, and then went to the infantry school, and then I sort of got a sense of like California. We didn't get a lot of weekends off. I don't know if my class was just a bunch of retards where my instructor was like, the best you can do is stay in the little horseshoe right here or go to the PX, but that's it. Really? I think we had gotten off base maybe 3 times in the 10-week course that the infantry school was or whatever it was. I got to leave base maybe like 3 times.
Okay. How was that? Now this is obviously infantry school is much different than all the other MOS schools. So I mean, what goes on in infantry school compared to
So I was just a regular infantry rifleman.
Yep.
Which is 0311. But once you go to infantry school, that's where you get put into like mortars. We had the assaultman, which I don't even think is a thing anymore. All the other infantry-related MOSs has to go to ITB or SOI.
Okay.
And everybody's together for like the first half of it because you just get really nitty-gritty meat and potatoes of what it is to be an infantryman. Mm-hmm. And then after that, everybody goes to their individualized infantry training, whatever that may be.
And are those guys signing up for it and going in, or are they selecting you out of the beginning of it?
No, these guys already have it in their contract.
Okay, so they're going as a mortarman or as a machine gunner. Heavy.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so like they're going as a 31 machine gunner, they're going as a 41 mortarman. They already had that selected.
Got it. Then you're just basic old 0311.
0311. So like once we do the split, then you just kind of do, we're doing more hikes and, land nav and very broad stroke type of stuff just to get you ready for the fleet. Nothing crazy, but you really get, the meat and potatoes of land nav with, your map and your compass and your protractor. You really get the meat and potatoes of kind of camouflaging and tape and stuff like that and hikes and elevation differentiations. And so we got through all that. And then I ended up getting stationed with 1-5. So where infantry school is and where I ended up getting stationed was just right over one of the like little mountain ranges. Like it was super close.
Yeah.
So I get there into like the receiving or whatever, and it's like a lottery, like I don't. All the new guys get in. We're in a room. All the senior guys are there, and like we want that guy.
It's kind of an awkward. It's an awkward time.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like being in a draft, and you're like, you don't want to be the last kid on the playground to get picked, but you're also like, man, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, or who's who.
Who's who?
Like this guy looks like a huge asshole.
Yeah, and so end up getting picked up, and a lot of the senior guys, had just gotten back from a deployment. So they just got back from NAWA. much like anybody coming off a deployment, the adrenaline is still very high.
I was gonna say that's worst case scenario is to be a boot,
Like right when
to be a boot drop, and then go to a battalion that just got back.
Yeah.
You're done. I
Yeah,
mean, you are public enemy number one as a young Marine.
for sure. And they took some heavy hits in Nawa too. So knowing it now, but then I'm like, man, why are these guys such pricks? You know, they're still trying to reevaluate life themselves
For
and
sure.
kind of come back. And so we go in, we get there, and a lot of my senior guys were actually not bad.
Really?
Like, they were pretty solid dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the occasion, one or two that were just, like you said, short timers getting out. So they're having their fun with the new guys.
Yeah.
But most of them were pretty squared away. And my roommate, who I ended up being a roommate with, I think I may have talked to him maybe twice in SOI, but then we got to be a roommate. Cholo dude from California, and we actually hit it off super tight. And it's like day one, and we get there, it's like a Thursday, so we got to do laundry, and we got to do field day because we had inspections the next day. So she's rolling right into laundry field days, like it's gonna suck for a while. So we're in there in our room, and we're doing laundry, and we're trousers on, maybe our socks, but that's it. We're dressing down for the night, and there's a bang at the door, and so me being me, oh hey, yeah, open the door.
Never answer the door.
Dude, boom, 3 dudes walk in. One's like this big, like probably from Iowa, corn-fed, like just huge, like a behemoth of a guy. And I'm just like, all right, and one of the guys sits down, he's eating chips, and this other guy walks in, and he's like, who are you, and this and that, and I was like, motherfucker, you're in my room. Who are you? And so we're going back and forth, and the big guy that's standing behind him closes the door, and I'm just like, oh no, like I know where this is gonna go, but I'm not one to be like, you're not punking me, especially in my house, no, not happening. And so we were like close to like going at it, and there's another knock at the door, and it was my senior Marines. These Marines that walked in thought we were like their boots.
Oh.
And so they were coming in to like raise hell on us.
Yeah.
And our senior guy was like, no, you guys are fucked up. Like, you got to go. And they're like, oh, okay. But the guy that him and I were like this, like, he didn't want to leave. And I was like, we can go. Like, we can dance if you want, man. Like, I don't.
This is day one in the fleet?
Day one. And I turn around, and my roommate is, he's probably going to watch this. He's probably going to kill me. But he's at parade rest behind me. And once these guys leave, I'm like, bro, like, what the fuck? Like,
why'd you have my back?
Like, we were about to like get down, and you're just there. And he's like, no, I'm like, you don't get it, And he pulls his hands out, and he's holding his pocket knife and some scissors. And he's like, we were gonna get down. And I was like, bro, I wasn't trying to commit murder, but I wasn't gonna get my ass beat either.
He was just waiting for the
he
right.
was just
right.
ready, And like since then, him and I were just tight.
Oh, for
We were
sure.
tight.
And
Every time we went to town, like we were just we were tight.
When a dude's got your truly got your back, and you don't even know each other,
dude,
that's all you need.
Dude, we were tight. Him and I, we got into a few tight spots.
Yeah.
As boots, but he's been the A1 from day one.
Yeah. That's always good to have too, because sometimes it takes some guys a while to get in and with some dudes or whatever, especially being the new guy in the platoon.
Dude, yeah, and so we hit it off. I mean,
That's hilarious.
We've been to a few house parties where. We got down, and so it was a good time.
Where were the house parties at?
Where
do you guys party? Where do grunts go to party?
We were crashing parties, honestly.
Okay.
So a lot of my guys, I wouldn't say a lot, but a good bit of them were from California.
Yeah.
So every time we go off base, we hit up my roommate's house or one of my other buddies, and we'd just be like, yo, I know you got friends. Like, call up friends, and we just crash parties.
Yeah.
And so this one in particular, we go to my buddy, one of my other buddies. He's like, yeah, my friend knows of a party. We can just go. And so, boom, bet. So he was driving like a pickup at the time, and so it was maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 of us. that went plus his buddies. And so we went to this first place, and it was just like nothing, nothing was like
Yeah.
really going on. And so he's like, I know of another party. It's this chick's birthday. And we're like, okay, cool, let's go. So we hop in his truck, we cruise over, and we go in the backyard. We don't talk to nobody. We just start pouring up, alcohol, drinks, and we're just walking around like we own the fucking party. And I sit down in the back. 'Cause I mean, house parties are cool, but it's not my deal. Like, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people's like, yeah, like I'm gonna go and like dance and try and spit game and whatnot, and that just wasn't my thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my drink and I sat down and I'm like observing this party. And I'm like doing a head count, of like people. And one of my buddies is just already just tanked. And he's the biggest dude out of all of us. And he's just, sleeping on the chair. And I'm like, that can't, like, if something goes down, that can't be good. You're the biggest guy here. And
we need you.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there just kind of vibing. And I'm watching the crowd, and it starts to funnel. Like, out the side gate of this house, they just start funneling. Somebody came in the back and just started tapping dudes like on the shoulder, and you just saw this party just start to funnel. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, there's that guy, there's that guy, there's that guy. I was like, shit, like where's my roommate? And so I kind of squeeze into like this shuffle of people to get out this gate, and sure enough, they're jumping my roommate. And so and so I run up and I get in the mix, and by this point, all of our other buddies kind of realize what's going on. So it's like 5 of us against like 30 of these guys at this party.
Are these other Marines, or are these just normal civilians?
No, just normal civilians.
Okay.
So it's like the 5 of us and like this group of guys. And one of us is drunk sitting in the backyard. So it's really 4 of us against this big crowd, and there was no way we were going to win.
Yep.
So we did what we could and tried to like de-escalate and remove ourselves from the situation. And we start walking, so we like start separating, and we start walking back to the truck, and we're like, well, shit, where's the dozer, And so we're like, so we turn around to walk back, and this big crowd starts walking back towards us, like we're gonna get into it again.
Yeah.
And here comes my buddy, and he's just stumbling out, and they're like shoving him towards us, and so we end up leaving. But yeah, it was stuff like that. Like we're getting stuff like that in the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So SOI, once you go through a 10-week course, what's the next steps for a young infantryman like yourself? Is that where you went to 3-5?
1-5.
1-5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. So you do your schooling.
Yep.
And then you go over to your unit.
Yep. And then now you're getting settled in.
Getting settled in, getting to lay the land.
Yep.
But then we jumped right into a workup. So the guys got back from their deployment, and they had probably like a month, maybe a couple months, and then we jumped right back into a workup.
That sucks.
Yeah. Not so much for the senior guys, because a good portion of them were getting out.
Okay.
So they didn't have to worry about getting spun up. They're
just cruising.
Coasting.
Yeah.
And so the whole battalion was a boot battalion, except for like a handful of squad leaders, platoon sergeants, things like that. Even some of our platoon commanders were new guys.
Really?
Yeah. So just a big boot battalion. So for us, we didn't know any better. But a lot of the senior guys were like, yeah, this blows, because they just got off one, and now they're jumping right back into another one.
Been there.
But yes, we did like I got there, it was a February of 2010, and then we deployed in March 2011.
Okay.
So like a year workup, we jumped right into it.
Yep.
And so that pretty much took up a majority of the time, was just workups.
Field ops.
Things like that, a lot of hiking, battalion hikes, stuff like that. But
where are you guys going? Do you know yet, or did they?
We didn't know yet.
Okay.
We didn't know until kind of partway through, and it changed. So at first,
always,
we were supposed to go like in the mountains somewhere. So we were doing a lot of hikes, like all these ridges in Pendleton. We went up to Bridgeport to do the cold weather training.
Yeah, the mountain warfare training or whatever.
So they were thinking we were going to be in the mountains in Afghanistan. And as it got closer, it changed, and we got word that we were going to relieve 3-5 in Sangin. And that was more like fields and crops and things like that.
Yeah.
Flatlands. little wadis and canals and shit like that. So
Isn't that the typical Marine Corps shit that gets you? They send you up to Bridgeport. You're just humping mountains for this whole workup, and then right before they're like, "By the way,
dude, yeah,
you're going to be in the valleys."
Dude, I didn't mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like,
for
sure.
If I'm going through Bridgeport and this blows, like I don't do that for a deployment.
A deployment, fighting people.
Yeah, I'd rather be on the flatlands. So it was whatever. Bridgeport was cool. We got snowed on, and we're just in little, not even tents. We're just poncho liners trying to dig a fighting hole. It was terrible.
Yeah, Bridgeport is. It could be a lot of fun, but it could be an absolutely miserable place to also be at as well.
Yeah, I had a good time. There was like anybody else. There's times that you really didn't like, but a good portion of the time, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time.
Yeah, that's good.
So, but we ended up getting word that we're gonna take over for 3-5, and the intel we were getting, we were like, they were passing it down, and they're like, yeah, 3-5 is. They're taking it. They're getting hard hit. They hit hard, and it really didn't register for the battalion because again we're a new battalion for the most part. A lot of young guys.
So you don't have a lot of guys kind of feeding you the intel of what's actually going on and what to look forward to.
Right. So like some of the senior guys are, they're trying to do their best. Right. We have a handful of squad leaders that have done some time prior deployments. Platoon commander, platoon sergeant, similar deal. But a lot of our like corporals or like small unit leadership type stuff.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of experience on their end either, even though they were like NCOs and things like that. So, a lot of us are like, yeah, like this is what we trained for. We want to go.
You're excited.
We go down and get some.
Yeah.
And we're getting reports like, 3-5 lost this many people today, or they got these casualties. These are the types, of things that they're looking for, IEDs, and not a whole lot of indirect fire. But when it happens, like you're in it for a while, and
what's going through what's your thought process at this point?
It's just.
You're a young kid, but you're getting reports back to 3-5. They got their asses handed to them.
Dude, yeah, they took a hard hit.
Yeah, they lost a lot of casualties. So are you even processing this, or are you just still like, not really having a clue what's going on?
It's really one of those you have no clue what's going on. Mm-hmm. You're taking the intel, and you're like, well, at the end of the day, this is what I signed up for.
Okay.
And like, I got my training, and I want to go and put that to action.
Okay.
I want to put what I've learned into work.
Yeah.
And so that was, I would only speak for everybody else, but that was kind of how I saw it, and it didn't really register like this is a big boy game.
For sure.
It's not, you're not going there and coming home kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't register really until we actually got there. So we got all this intel that we're going to relieve 3-5, and we had this one sergeant who's getting out, and pretty funny guy. I still follow him on social media, and he's doing good, thankfully. But he ended up hurting himself, so he couldn't go on the deployment.
Ugh.
And it was just some freak accident where he like cut himself, but he like messed some stuff up and
got a tendon.
Yeah, so he couldn't go. But he was a funny dude. And I remember one day, I think we had just got back from a field op, or I remember walking to the armory, whether we were dropping weapons off or retrieving weapons. And he's walking alongside us, got something else going on. He wasn't even doing what we were doing. And he's like looking at it, he's like, yep, you're coming home with no legs. Yep, you look like you'd be shot. Oh, you're tall as, you're getting shot. And he's just, and we're just like.
Being that shithead Marine.
Yeah, and we're like, man, this dude's not right in the head. And, it's a funny dude. And I was telling him, and I told one of my team leader too, who's a big dude, and we're still pretty cool. And I was like, man, I got a low silhouette. I'm straight. I'm golden. I'm cool. And we saw how that happened, how that worked out. We didn't.
Right.
But we'll get into that later. But yeah, just a funny dude. So.
You're like, oh, this dude predict the future.
Yeah, he had a little crystal ball, But yeah, so again, I think that was like the mentality of, at least for me, was, this is what we signed up for, it's what we trained for.
For sure.
Join in the middle of a war, not expecting to go to war.
Yep. So, you're in.
Yeah.
You guys got the word. You do a year's worth of workups. Are you flying straight there? How'd you guys, you're going to Afghan.
Right. We're going to Afghanistan.
So.
Yeah, so we leave.
It's getting close to time. Is the atmosphere in the platoon starting to change? Things are getting a lot more serious, or was it kind of the same all the way through?
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the serious level and the tempo, it stayed consistent. Like
okay, that's good.
Like we understood the serious of what we were about to go do, the seriousness of what we were about to do. So we maintained that tempo and that that mentality. So I guess like nothing changed as it got closer. I think we were just getting more kind of like antsy and like ready to go as it got closer.
For sure.
But it wasn't like, we had like this lull where we're just like, okay, we're just coasting through the training, and then we ramped it up at the end. I think we were already kind of up here because we're getting these reports, from 3-5, and so we didn't take it light. Like we understood like we're gonna get down when we get there, and so we just maintained that.
You're walking into a fist fight,
right? And so like we already were kind of well aware not what to expect, but we can't be lax in that regard. So we were just kind of ready to go.
So you're flying to Afghan. What's it like preparing to get ready to go? I mean, you're getting a gear list, you're getting your pack. Is it weird knowing that everything that belongs to you is coming in a bag? And because for us, being in a tanker, an Amtracker, we got 7 cubes, we got pack, we could stuff shit everywhere. So we got it plush. We have everything that we need.
Yeah. So we got
for you're leaving with what?
We got 2 seat bags, a day pack, and our main pack.
Okay.
And weapon. That's it.
That's it.
So everything else you own, not that we owned a lot, had to be sent home or put in storage or whatever.
Yep.
So, like I had a little 96 Tacoma when I was there that I ended up like driving home, and so I just loaded up my truck. So we did our pre-deployment leave was in, I want to say December. So we just kind of packed everything up that I wasn't going to have to take to Afghanistan, and I drove it home, left the truck home, and then just flew back.
Yeah.
And then the little bit of possessions that I did have that wasn't going to Afghanistan with me, I ended up leaving with my wife now, but we were just dating at the time. I left at her place, where her parents' place. Left it there. And then, just 2 sea bags, a day pack, a main pack, and your rifle, and that was good.
And off you go.
And off you go.
Yeah. So you load up. Where did you guys head down to San Diego? Did you load up on Pendleton? How do they fly you guys, and where out of?
Yeah, so we loaded up from Pendleton. We stayed right there in the basketball courts.
Okay.
So we got in those white prison buses, and then we drove to March Air Force Base.
And all your family said goodbye to you there at the basketball courts, or did they follow you to March?
I don't think anybody went to March. Everybody, all the families were there. The only person that was there for me was my wife and her mom.
It's a super awkward feeling when you're deploying that like within hours.
Yeah.
And you got guys that are holding their babies,
newborn babies,
wives, fiancés, and you're saying your goodbyes.
Yeah, and there was guys there who had nobody there.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for like my wife and her mom, like nobody would have been there. No, not trying to talk ill of my folks. I mean, they're busy and probably, what are they going to do, right? They're just going to stand there like, cool, like you left, right? Now I got to go all the way back home to Texas. Like I wouldn't want them there anyway.
Yep.
But you're right. It's a weird feeling. We left like early in the morning. I remember it still being dark. And people with newborn kids or little kids, wives, new wives, saying goodbye. It's just odd.
It is odd.
I didn't know how to take it, my first deployment. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I'll call and write when I can, but, we'll be cool. Still not really understanding the gravity of what we were going to walk into.
Yeah.
We knew it's a serious situation, but just the gravity of what it all entailed was
tempo
was still lost on me a little bit.
Yeah.
But so we got on the buses, and I found this out later. But when my wife and her mom were like leaving, she like turned to my wife and was like, "He's not coming back the same." Like she had like this weird, like epiphany dream thing, and she's like, I don't think he's gonna die, but he's not coming back the same. Like,
really?
He's missing something, yeah. And so I was like, huh, that's odd.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just have that intuition.
Thanks for putting that out there.
Right. Yeah. Some people just have that intuition.
Yep.
But I found this out like way later.
Yeah.
Even if she would have called me, it's not like I would have been jumped off the bus like, no, I want to keep my toes,
Yeah, there's nothing you're changing.
Yeah. But anyway, so we go up to March, and then from March, we flew to like New York or DC or something.
Okay.
We had like a layover there, and then from there we flew into Kazakhstan, I think it is. And then we were there for like a few days, and then from there we got heloed into Afghanistan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We got on the
What's
chopper
that
to
like?
Leatherneck.
Loading onto a bird?
Yeah, so I think that's how we got into Leatherneck. We got on the bird, but uh, you know it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I don't remember that part as much as getting heloed into our AO because we landed under fire. So it was just we're grabbing ourselves off this bird and we're running.
Your first
Yeah, so
seconds on the ground, you're already under fire.
Yeah, so we start to land and they drop the tail end and they're like, hey, just get ready. Like every time that we have like landed, like we've come under some sort of like fire, so just be ready. And like within like a few steps of like the first person running off the bird, you hear like shots, like pop, 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 pop. And so you're just like staying low and like sprinting to the HESCO barriers. And
you're like, we're here.
Yeah, so that was just, it's because we stopped, we got dropped into like the main fob, like the main PB.
Okay.
And so we were there for maybe a day or two. And then from there, we took vehicle like MRAPs or whatever it was down, because we were like just down the road was where the AO the patrol base that I worked out of, which is like right down the road, a few miles.
What's the environment like? It's desert, but is there mountain ranges near you? Is that where the fire's coming from, or are you based near a city?
So the main patrol base is like we're outside the city.
Okay.
We had a patrol base kind of like in the middle of the city. I forget what the name of that patrol base was. But the main patrol base where like the CO is hanging out, you know, company guns, whatever, it's just desert. And then you got little sand dune mountains type thing kind of out in the expanse.
Okay.
And then we had this road. It was called Route 611, I think it was. And then on the other side, it was all green because it butted up to the Helmand. And so all the farmlands were on that side of the road. And then it was all desert and dunes and mountain on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And so the AO that I worked out of was the green zone, like all these farms by the Helmand. So that was the AO that we worked out of. And we did one mission where we had to helo in across the Helmand to like these little mountain village and kind of clear this village for whatever. And but that was the AO I primarily worked.
Got it. And what did your day-to-day go? What was your day-to-day like? Are you ground or are you mobile?
Ground. Everything was ground.
Everything.
Yeah. So unless we had to make trips to the main patrol base.
Yeah.
Everything was ground. We'll take Vicks to the main patrol base, or we had to take supplies to any other like outposts. You know, we'll drive the vehicles. But everything as far as maneuvering within our AO is all on foot.
So day one of your new fob, you get in, you get settled.
Yeah.
What's going through your head at this point? I mean, what's the environment like? What's the situation?
You know, it was a little chaotic because 3-5 is getting ready to head out.
So you're doing left seat, right seat,
left seats, right seats, and things like that. And I think we relieved. I think it was Kilo 3-5. I think.
Okay.
And so they're all packing up. They're pumped. They're ready to get out of there. They had a hell of a deployment. So I want to say like the first week we were doing rips with 3-5. So we're patrolling with them. So our patrols are long,
massive. Yeah.
We're doing like Ranger files where you're just kind of behind each other and just massive things. And so I'm up there with their point man because I'm switching spots with that guy, and he's pointing out things that they've seen in the AO, things to kind of watch out for, how to sort of spot IEDs. And even though we had engineers and like that was their whole main life and purpose when Afghanistan is, helping us, metal detect with the IEDs and things like that. The point man is kind of like their second set of eyes and their security if they have to get down there and, probe for an IED or whatever. Like I'm their eyes and security.
Yeah.
But it made sense for me to kind of know some of the signs as well. So we're doing that, and it was quiet. Like the AO, like nothing was going on because they're still growing poppy. So 3-5 heads out, and then we just sort of take over, and we're just kind of hooking and jiving. Not a whole lot's going on because they're still growing the poppy.
Oh, so while they're doing that, they're trying not to kick a hornet's nest over there because they want to be left alone so they can grow their crops.
Right.
Okay.
So they already don't want to, hook and jab with coalition forces. Like they already don't want to, let alone the Marine Corps. So when a typical patrol's going out, unless they are trying to see Allah, I guess, they for the most part try to leave you alone, especially when they're growing the crops, because that's where they get the funding to fund, whatever Taliban, ISIS, whatever people were there. So then when you see, 2 squads plus reinforcements worth of patrol going out,
Yeah.
like everybody's inside. Like nobody's outside. Their goats are inside. Like no, you don't see nobody. 3-5 left. It was cool for the first few months. So we got there in March. It didn't start really popping off until June, and that's because they harvested all the poppy.
You guys, the poppy fields, you're not able to destroy them? They have to be left alone?
You have to leave them alone. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy knowing like that's what's funding this war?
Yeah,
and here you are, boots on the ground, patrolling through poppy fields.
Yeah.
Not being able to destroy them, to let them harvest their crops, to be able to sell, to make opium, heroin, whatever, to fund the war that you're over there fighting.
Hearts and minds.
Isn't our government just incredible?
Yeah, it's like this is clear where they're getting their money from.
Yeah.
And granted, not all the farmers, or the locals hate us, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're in a tough spot. They're between a rock and a hard place. It's either I can help you and be left alone and potentially get murked by, this Taliban force, ISIS, whatever it is, or I continue to harvest these plants and pay them off and hope you don't drop a day jam on my village. For being helping them getting, miscued as, the enemy, and then I get a J dam dropped on top of my compound. So they're really a lot of people are really trying to like flirt that line. Granted, there are plenty of people in the local populace that are just like, yeah, that guy is definitely a Taliban or the enemy guy. But a good bit of them, they're just farmers, man. Like you do here. They're just trying to provide for their family and
make
a
living.
Life. Yeah, and
they're just trying to survive.
They are, and it just so happens they got these knuckleheads that want to try and control everything, and they're just in a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. So did you guys get in any firefights, any little ticks before it started to pick off, or were you guys out over there and were like, man, this is pretty nice?
No, it wasn't until after they really harvested.
Really?
Yeah. So
was it immediate?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So before, we would do our patrols. We would go talk to people in the community and trying to get a sense of like who's the bad guy here. Like let us help you out. The real hearts and minds, stuff like that. And it was just we would patrol and we'd just find a spot and just hang out under the shade for a little while, and away from. So we had like the eye in the sky, like the camera, to kind of watch the patrols, and we would duck under trees and kind of take a break. Bro, it's 130 degrees or whatever it is out there, plus your gear, and we're like, man, we're gonna take a seat and catch a break.
Yeah, for sure.
So we would do stuff like that, but once they harvested the poppy, you couldn't do that. Like it was like no, because you just didn't know where anything was buried.
Oh, so you guys didn't hit any IEDs?
I think we might have found a few, they call them legacy IEDs.
Just left behind?
Just left behind from maybe when Russia was there, or just really old, type stuff.
Just old ordnance?
Yeah, and you're like, okay, cool. Like we pop them out, either feel something that the engineer couldn't do himself, we'd call EOD to come in and pop it in place, but nothing crazy. But after the harvest of the poppy, there was an increase in IED hits and fines, and like the tree lines were just
littered.
Bad place to be.
Right away, huh?
Yeah.
So they're just waiting. They're just building everything, getting everything ready for as soon as the harvest season goes. It's full on war for them.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, I don't even know. Like I said beforehand, we'd talk to the people. We'd do what we can.
Just chilling, having fun.
Chilling. I don't really remember a whole lot of firefights prior.
Yeah.
I might have had one or two people do pop shots from like a tree line and just like duck away, but nothing engaging.
Yeah.
But once they harvested the poppy, it was like the Wild West. And it started in June. So June 9th, a squad went out, and we lost a Marine, and it's a bunch of casualties. So that was the 9th. Got them out of there, did what we had to do, go back, get the gear, and, make sure there wasn't anything else that we had left behind, and all that stuff after you do, get hit with something like that. And then the 12th, so the way the camera was that we had in our patrol base, there was a blind spot on the back side of our compound where we would really like exit. We'd cross an engineer bridge over a canal, but it was big, thick trees that covered this bridge. So you really had no eyes on, even from kind of like from posts. We had a post right there too, but even from posts, a little hard to kind of keep eyes on. They had littered the backside of this bridge with IEDs.
So they know your guys' blind spots.
Yeah, they do. And so on the 12th, a squad went out, and the moment they crossed over this engineer bridge, hit IEDs. And my squad had came in from a night OP, so we were already kitted up. So we went out as a QRF, or a quick reaction force, to help and assess. And we lost a Marine. We kept him stable until he got on the bird, and then we lost him. But a lot of casualties, like a machine gunner went down, a couple squad leaders, our platoon sergeant ended up going down, our CO was there, he went down, our engineers went down. It was like this big mass cast type of deal.
And you guys were the QRF for it?
Yeah.
What was that like rolling up on that? I mean, how old are you at this point? 19, 20 years old? So you're a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then and it's just, I mean, then it goes from a flip of a switch to full-on war.
Yeah.
And now you're dealing with a mass cas. What's that like, dealing with that as being a child?
At the time, it's hard to really process. Adrenaline's going.
For sure.
Shit like that. So I remember, because again, I was running point, so I'm in front, and I had to cross this engineer bridge, and these Marines are just littered on the ground, just blown to pieces, looking like taco meat, like just terrible
everywhere.
Scene. And I can't stop. I got to keep going and set up security. So it feels like I'm saying kind of like, fuck you, Not really, but it's like, I can't stop to help you. Even though I want to, I got to go and set up security and then set up a perimeter. And so that was kind of a shitty feeling.
Yeah.
And
so you're running by dudes that are dying.
Yeah. We only lost one KA in that instant, and it was one of our engineers.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other Marines that got hit, they were just wounded in action.
Okay.
Many of them didn't return to the battlefield. They ended up staying stateside. But it was just a terrible feeling, because obviously you want to stop and help your Marines, but you got to go and set up security and things like that, and search for secondary IEDs and all that stuff. So, and there was a guy on a motorbike, and he started just cruising, just flying by, and we're yelling at him to stop, and he had like these little jugs on the side of his little bike. We yelled at him to stop, and he wasn't stopping, and we got the orders to like light him up, and we just tore this guy up. And when the first round hit him, he tried to stop, and he was like, it was too late. There's nothing you can do now. He looked like Swiss cheese.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, you're sitting there with a mass casualty, and this dude comes rolling up on a bike.
Yeah. So there was 3-4 of us that just stood up and turned him into Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
And
was that the first guy that you engaged?
That I could see, yes.
Okay.
A lot of the other ones were kind of pop shots from like behind trees. They took some pop shots at our patrol base, and me and my roommate, we ran on top of one of the buildings, and we're just, because he had he's a designated marksman.
Okay.
So he had like the souped up like M4 with the long scope, and so we were just kind of scanning the fields and things like that. But the first guy that I could see and visually actually engage,
What was that like?
It is what it is. I think at the time, 'cause you're kind of angry, right? You just like walked by our buddies just, scattered and hurt. And so I think you're more rage filled than anything. So you just didn't really bother it. But because it wasn't just one person shooting, it's hard to say who hit him,
for sure,
who really did it. So I get it. Some people have a hard time justifying like they have to smoke somebody, because it's hard to take a life. I don't care what it is. who you are, you can say, "Oh, I don't care." You care, you know. But having 3 or 4 people shoot at this target, it's hard to say, okay, who really did it?
Makes it a little easier.
Yeah, a little easier to digest. So we got that cleared up. We got, you know, the casualties on the bird and flew out and things like that. And so that was the 12th. And then on the 15th was when I got hit.
Damn, so you guys did 9th, 12th, 15th, just like that.
Yeah, so we went from being able to run missions and patrol and things like that in that patrol base to they had to wait for reinforcements.
In that amount, in a week span.
Yeah.
So you guys were combat ineffective, essentially within 5-6 days.
Yeah. I mean, they got their reinforcement fairly quickly,
yeah,
to my
but
understanding.
Still.
But yeah, for a hot second, they were essentially combat ineffective.
No shit.
Yeah. So I think like the first incident, like 5 or 6 people or something.
It's a lot.
The one on the 12th was like 10 or 12 people. The 15th was like another 8 people or something like that.
And that was
like,
your day?
Yeah, like it was like boom, 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 and it was just a lot of people.
So you're talking 30, 40 dudes like
within
that.
A week. And we're just in a platoon-size patrol base.
So you guys went from chilling, taking breaks on patrols.
Yeah.
They harvested the poppy, and you're almost 40 dudes down within less than a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive on the Afghani part.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, to be able to take out a platoon that quick.
Yeah, so it was a lot of people really fast. I got a picture on my phone I have to show you. So it's deep in my phone, otherwise I pull it up now on the podcast. But
you can send it to me. We'll overlay it on the video.
Yeah, one of the guys ended up getting like a shadow box made of like all of our casualties, like our wounded and our KIAs, and it's a lot of people in there. And he just kind of had it like framed up. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. But yeah, it's like 25 to 40 people were just
immediate.
That was it. And they just got a bunch of like reinforcements, and some of the reinforcements of engineers, like they got hit too.
So these aren't even guys from your platoon or battalion. I mean, I guess they're your battalion, but the reinforcements, do you know these guys? Did you do workups with them, or are these just combat replacements?
Combat replacements.
So now these combat replacements are jumping in with you guys.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get them spun up on the fly.
Right. I wasn't there, right? Because I was on the 15th, so I was on that last bit of that week from hell.
Yep. So they all came after you.
They all came after me, yeah. But yeah, my guys had to, take on roles that they normally wouldn't take on, and then try and spin up these guys. And a lot of the Marines were getting battlefield promotions because we needed NCOs.
That bad, huh?
Yeah. So a few of the guys were like, "Yo, you're picking up corporal because we need a corporal to be a team leader. You're picking up sergeant because we need a squad leader." And people were just getting battlefield promotions because they needed the NCOs.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's pretty serious if you're doing that.
Yeah. And it's a real kick in the nuts as far as morale goes.
100%.
Especially when on the 12th, I mean, we lost. We really didn't care for our CO. He was a piece of shit. But, he got hit. He ended up losing a leg.
There's always a couple of them in the platoon where you're like, if he gets hit, life's going to be better off. Yeah. I mean, it sounds horrible, but anybody that's had one of those in your platoon.
Our first sergeant was another guy that was just like, where's the guy?
Yeah. We're better off without.
Yeah. But, we lost our platoon sergeant, ended up getting hurt, ended up going stateside. A lot of our squad leaders, a lot of people that had some experience, a good portion that were getting injured and hurt and getting sent stateside.
So you have no.
And we had a few.
Okay.
We had a few guys there that still had experience that were kind of trying to help, lead and do morale up, things like that. But a good bit of them were getting sent stateside because we were just getting fucking smoked out there.
Oh, shit. It's all IEDs at this point.
Yeah. I think one Marine from a different platoon was shot and killed.
Okay.
But a good majority of the stuff was IEDs.
Damn, which are so scary.
Yeah, because they lay these IEDs, you get hit, a good portion of your men are down, and then they ambush you on the back end. So not only are you having to worry about, life-saving measures for your Marines, putting tourniquets on, and the voodoo that our corpsmen do, now we're getting engaged with small arms fire and AKs and, rockets and this and that. So your security's having to fight that off, and they're trying to shoot the birds down, and it becomes like a big fiasco at that point.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just getting blown up and then just stitching you guys up and sending you home. Like they do that, and then they come and then they try and whack you the other way too.
And then now you're worried about your golden hour.
Right, absolutely.
Because once you get hit, you got the golden hour starts,
Absolutely.
and then you're dealing with a firefight now. And then if you're obviously getting engaged, the birds usually aren't going to land.
Right.
So then you're trying to clear that, and then obviously you got the golden hour to get them on the bird into a hospital to save some lives, and then you're dealing with all the bullshit on the back end.
Yeah.
That's a rough go around.
Yeah, and it just I wouldn't say like a constant thing, because after the 15th, I wouldn't say it died down, but they didn't really get into a whole lot of mass cases after that point. They had a few other ones kind of later on, and like 1 KA towards the end of our deployment.
Okay.
But that week was just a week of just mass casualties.
Just hell week.
Yeah.
So the morning of the 15th, the morning that changed your life forever, how did it start?
I mean, a lot of my memory from deployment and the day is like a little fuzzy.
Yeah.
So a good bit of it is kind of what I got from my guys afterwards. But I do remember, like the night before, we got a sat phone. Like maybe the second or third time, maybe that we were able to get a sat phone so everybody can call home.
Which is the greatest thing the
greatest thing
ever. It's getting like a call home.
It's a call home, and it's one of those things where the sat phone, like it's coming, because, I mean, at least our platoon sergeant and our platoon commander were pretty squared away. Great guys. They're like, hey, like we just got word, like sat phone's making its way down from the PBs. It's coming. And then it gets held up for whatever at the main patrol base because so and so higher in the chain of command wants to keep it in his bedroom nice
and give it to his buddy and let his boys use it.
Yeah. So it was one of those things, but we ended up getting it. And I remember calling home, and I had called my wife. She was like sleeping, and I was like, hey, so chatted super quick. So I didn't have a whole lot of time on the sat phone, but I was like, hey, I just want to call you, like I'm cool, blah blah blah. Like 2 minutes. I was like, cool. Let her go. And I called my mom, because she's one of those like nervous Nellies, like just worries about everything. At the time, my dad and I didn't have like the strongest relationship, so I didn't really like care to call there. And I knew it was like in the middle of the night, and I didn't want to bug him. He's a busy guy. So I called my mom, and she picks up, and so we're chatting for a few minutes, and it's like, oh, how's it going? And I was like, oh, it's great. Like nothing's going on. As we're trying to reel from the past two mass casualties, right? So it's very OPSEC, and is what you can say. And I was like, look, I gotta go do this mission. We gotta go and talk to this informant. I just kind of got like this uneasy feeling about it. Just kind of get like that sixth sense where you're just like, I don't know, I feel like something's gonna go sideways. And I kind of told her, and I was like, something's not sitting right. But it's just another day. We've done these patrols a million times. Like, you always get those butterflies right before a mission, right before you step out. I was like, it's just that.
But you had a weird feeling about this one.
Yeah, and probably it had to do because of the 9th and the 12th. We're just like, I don't know, But I was like, it'll be cool. We had the sat phone for a few days. I was like, I'll call you tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Like when I get home and when we get back from patrol, I'll give you a call and let you know that everything's cool. Blah blah blah. So, okay, cool. And I hang up, and then sure enough, the next day is when I got hit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So your mom and girlfriend at the time, now wife, are all like, "Oh, he's great. Everything's Rest assured, G's doing just fine. Nothing's happening over there." And little do they know.
Yeah. So, it was just a weird feeling because we had 2 engineers for our platoon, and one passed away and one got injured.
Okay.
And so we had one of our Marines, he's a great guy, he's a firefighter now, great dude, take the place of the engineer.
And now, are your engineers mine sweeping with the metal detectors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's their main role. They're out in front just sweeping roads and yards and everything else?
Right, and it's more, you're more, praying to whatever gods you're praying, because half the time those metal detectors don't work anyway.
For sure.
So it's really their eyes and their experience that's really saving you through these patrols.
And now you have a Marine with zero experience out there doing it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they sort of gave us like a training on it prior to deployment.
Yeah.
But it wasn't our
Primary.
main MOS, like, you know. So we kind of got like the gist of it, but we're not nowhere near proficient with it. But we got to spin up a Marine to do it and be like, yo, you drew the short stick, like this is you.
Semper Gumby.
Yeah. So and he took it in stride. You know, he didn't fight it and whatnot. And it was our first mission without an engineer. So it's like, man, this is gonna be weird. Well, no, I take that back. It's like 3 days later. So he had a few days to kind of knock the dust off and kind of get acquainted with it, but still really fresh, still really weird. And I don't know, maybe it was a little bit of that kind of made me feel a little uneasy. But yeah, I mean that was all she wrote. The next day on the 15th is pulled my number. And
let's walk us through that. How was that? What you can recall and what you've been told.
Yeah, so I remember we had to step out and go talk to an informant in the village. So I guess along the way, I've been told, I don't remember, but along the way to make contact with an informant, we had got engaged. So we did that for a bit. I don't know how long. They broke off and left or whatever, and so we continued our mission to go talk to this informant. We did that, and then I want to say on our way back, again, we got engaged. Again, I don't remember. We got engaged for a bit. Again, they broke off. We kept going where we were going, and then from what I remember, we're coming up to these tree lines, and they're at an L shape.
Okay.
And we're just like screwed. To the right is these rubble buildings, and so we're just like, they engaged us, and they funneled us into this area essentially.
Oh, they were setting you guys up.
Yeah, like it makes sense now, but we didn't catch it, or I didn't catch it then. They hide a lot of the IEDs in rubble buildings and in tree lines, these like canals.
And those are your only two options.
Those are only two options. And the only other option would be to turn around and backtrack, but they also backlay. So they'll watch you patrol, and then they'll just go behind you and backlay IEDs. So we never go backwards. We're always going to push forward. Mm-hmm. I remember getting on the radio, and I was like, yo, like this just doesn't, something's off, but we're screwed. Like we can't go left, we can't go right. We got to continue through these tree lines and hope for the best. And I was like, we need to turn around, think something else, like we got to figure this out. And they're like, no, you need to push through. And end up getting in an argument, and I was like, look, if I get fucking blown up, it's your fault. And clicked off the radio. Well, not like clicked it off, but I put it back, and a few more steps, and I stepped on an ID.
No.
Yeah. And so...
Who were you on the radio with?
It was the individual who was taking over the squad at the time.
Okay.
Because our squad leader got hurt.
Okay.
And so that's what it was. The purpose of the mission was to, yes, go talk to the informant, but also show the NCO who was going to take over the squad, the AO.
And he's the one that told you to keep pushing.
It was the we lost our sergeant. It was the corporal was the one telling me we could put. He was in charge of the squad at the time. We're showing another sergeant the AO so he could take over.
Got it.
So it was a corporal that was like, if I get hit, it's gonna be your fault. Like I just and I hung up, and sure enough, stepped on an ID. So
oh shit.
Yeah.
Do you remember the blast, or were you out?
A little bit. I remember stepping on it, dust going in my face, and like slamming on the ground, and that was it. Like I don't remember being in any pain. I don't remember getting pulled out of the canal.
It blew you into a canal?
Yeah.
What was because you said there was another large group of guys. Did they all get hit in the same
area?
What all went down once you got hit? So you initiated it.
Yeah. So I was the first one. The Marine who was in front of me with the metal detector kind of got thrown forward. Marines broke from the squad to drag me out of the canal. And as they're pulling me up on this embankment, doing their assessments, Marines are coming up, sweeping for secondaries and trying to set security, and they're hitting IEDs. So the sergeant that was supposed to take over our squad ended up stepping on an IED and lost his legs. My saw gunner took shrapnel to the face. I remember him sitting next to me, like his eyes closed. We thought I lost his eye. He's bleeding in his face. The Marine who was in front of me I remember him at one point kind of kneeling next to me or over me, and he had a bootlace stuck in his face. So far, they had to go in and surgically remove it after they got him back, to the base. Surgically removed his bootlace. It was like stuck in his face.
No shit.
Yeah, my corpsman, I want to say his eardrum got like blown out. I remember him bleeding from the ears when he's like working on me.
So you're coherent at this point while they're working on you, like you come to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember screaming initially, but only because I didn't know where I was. And so it was more or less like, I am here, like you can like come find me, because I didn't know where I was. It wasn't necessarily a scream out of pain as much as it was, I don't know where I'm at this moment.
How far did you fly? To throw you into the canal? Were you right on the edge of the canal?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just right on the edge of it. So it didn't
Okay.
throw me too far. I forget how high it sent me in the air, but from my understanding, the water broke the fall and saved my life initially.
Okay.
Getting blown up. So they drug me out, set me up on this embankment. Yeah, just everything's going off, and then they're getting ambushed on top of that. And
So you're laying there,
yeah,
and you're just hearing IEDs going off. Then
yeah.
the small arms fire takes off, and you're just praying to God. Do you know at this point how bad your injuries are?
No, because I couldn't even sit up.
Okay.
I couldn't even sit up and like look at my legs. Couldn't even roll over, look at my arm. I didn't even know what I looked like. I just, I like, especially when you're young and you go into an environment like that, dying isn't an issue. Like you kind of already know in the back of your mind, like there's a good chance I'm not making it out of here. So when it happened, it wasn't like I'm begging to stay alive. I'm not, why me? Like I already made my peace with that before stepping into Afghanistan.
So you're accepting that you're going to die.
Yeah, because, good men are going to die. There's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, this is it, There's no fighting it. What are you going to do for me? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm dying, I'm dying. No matter how many tourniquets you put on me or, like,
Are they putting tourniquets on you at this point?
Yeah, tourniquets.
Do you remember feeling them?
No.
Really?
No, yeah, my body was, like, numb.
That's how you know it's bad.
My left lung collapsed. Both my legs are gone. My arm is looking like taco meat. I got tattoos now, but I was missing part of my forearm and like my bicep. And my doc is, doing his voodoo on top of me. And I remember looking over to my saw gunner, and because he's sitting up and he's just not in a good place. But I'm like, hey, like this is it, like tell everybody stateside, like it's been a fun ride. And I rolled over, and what I thought was going to sleep was dying. I remember being like really just cold, but like at peace. And I was like, cool,
This
man.
is
Like,
it.
yeah, and I just rolled over, and what I thought was like just going to sleep was I was dying.
That's what it felt like?
Yeah.
So you think in your mind you're going to sleep, but
Yeah.
technically you're dying at this point.
Yeah. Like
So that's what it feels like.
Yeah. Like I was
You were
like,
pretty peaceful?
yeah. You just feel like you're just not like tired, but you're just like you can't keep your eyes open, and you're just like, I just need to shut my eyes for a little bit, kind of like thought, and like just take a quick little cat nap, but you're dying.
That's scary.
Yeah, and so I remember doing that, and then I came to, I don't know what my doc did, probably cinched down the fucking tourniquets maybe, but I remember like popping my eyes back open. They got me on the stretcher, or like the litter, to the bird, because we called in the Brits. So the U.S. wanted the X to be, kind of calm, but the Brits, like they'll come in hot.
The Brits are the baddest motherfuckers on the
Yeah.
planet when it comes to pilots.
Yeah, so they were
Yeah.
they were called Tricky. That was their call sign
Okay.
at the time over the radio was Tricky. And so we called in Tricky, and they came in, and they loaded us up on the bird, and they got out of there. I don't even think the fucking skids touched the ground. They just hovered, they tossed us in there, and they took off.
Really? How many did they
Yeah.
toss in at once?
I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of passed out before
Okay.
I got to the bird. And then that was it. And then I woke up in Bethesda like weeks later.
So what was the route, knowing now, obviously, after waking up, where did they take you first?
So they ended up taking me to, I think it was Bastion. I think it was the field hospital in Afghanistan. I flatlined again on the bird, apparently, and they got me to Bastion, flatlined again somewhere there, ended up getting put into like a drug-induced coma. But I was in Bastion. I don't know if that happened in Bachelor, that happened in Germany, but at some point I got put into a drug-induced coma. But they were trying to get me to Germany, but I got held up for a few days because of sandstorms. They couldn't get any of the birds out.
Oh, God.
So once that cleared, they got me over to Germany, and I was only there for like 18 hours. And by this point, my folks had got the Red Cross message. My brother, who was deployed at the time, got a Red Cross message. And they're trying to figure out how to get to Germany. And they're like, don't even bother. Meet him in Bethesda so you can say goodbye. Chances are he's not making the flight to Bethesda. And
so they're writing you off. I mean, these docs already know your fate.
Yeah, I flatlined 4 times.
Damn.
Yeah, and so they're like, he's not going to make it. You know, either we're going to lose him on the way to Bethesda, or you're going to lose him right when he gets to Bethesda. So just make your preparations when you go there, like you're saying goodbye, essentially.
I couldn't even imagine being a parent and getting that call.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now as a parent, oh, no. That's the worst thing. At the time, I had no kids. And, again, I went in, you know, it's a possibility, so I'm at peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can only imagine now, being a parent now, like, dude, absolutely not. Yeah. And so I get to Bethesda, and then I just wake up like a few weeks later. So that was June 15th. So I would say by mid-July, probably. Like I woke up in Bethesda.
You just wake up out of a coma.
Yeah. And so like I remember taking like the breathing tube out, and I couldn't talk. My throat was all like scratchy.
How is that, pulling a breathing tube out of you?
It's like taking sandpaper and just taking it out. Like it was just scratching your throat, and it's very raspy. Like if you go and you run 5 miles in the desert with your mouth open, and then just try and swallow your saliva, like not even try to drink water, that's what it would feel like.
Really?
Like just dry, just scratchy, just yeah.
Oh, that's your first like
yeah
thing coming to after getting blown up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, and I didn't know where I was at first. You know, I kind of woke up, and you know, they got the whiteboard in the hospital, and it's like they got the date up there and who your nurse is. And I was kind of like, what is this?
Was there anybody in the room with you, or did you wake up by yourself?
I don't recall. I don't recall if my brother was there or if my mom was there. I don't recall, but I was just like, what is this place? Like I didn't even know I was in a hospital. It was just odd.
Yeah. Are you starting to put the pieces together now?
Yeah. You know, I'm starting to see the whiteboard. I'm like, okay, like, and you know, the bed, the chair, the door. You know, kind of moving my eyes. I can barely move. My arms are like in these foam, like things, and I'm just like doing one of these. But I kind of put the pieces together where I'm like, okay, like I'm alive. I'm in a hospital, and it's starting to kind of click. But then, it's like, well, if I'm in a hospital, how fucked up am I? You know? Maybe a couple days later, when I was able to sort of like sit up, I like walked my eyes down, and I just saw the blanket just go flat. And
really?
Yeah, and I lost it. Cried like a baby.
Rightfully,
yeah.
I feel like that's a natural reaction.
Yeah, because then it's like, man, what's life gonna be like now? You know, and I'm only 19, and I'm just like.
So you're a 19-year-old kid just waking up in a hospital.
Yeah.
And you see that there's no blanket past your knees, pretty much.
Yeah, and I cried like a baby. You know, they were like, you know, just get it out. You know, like you said, it's natural to feel that way, but once you get done, we need to figure out what the next steps are. So let's have your moment, but be prepared to keep going forward, essentially, was the advice I had gotten.
No shit.
And so how I always like looked at it, like through my recovery, was like, I still got to push on. Like I can't just be here. You know, I'm 19. I just more to life than just being here in the hospital bed.
You haven't even started life yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Still a teenager.
Yeah, you know. So
that's a pretty heavy thing.
Yeah, it was
for a 19-year-old kid.
And still, you're really not grasping it, because you still don't really understand the gravity of what just happened and what life's gonna look like now.
For sure.
You know, like you said, you're still a kid, you're still a teenager, and now your whole life is completely changed. Like 180.
In the blink of an eye.
Blink of an eye, yeah.
That's, God, man. I couldn't fathom just being a 19-year-old teenager and waking up in a hospital and my legs are missing. You got an arm that's mangled at this point. You still had kind of a hand, right?
Yeah, I had a pinky left.
But I remember seeing the pictures. You don't know really what's left on your hand, or do you know it's pretty bad?
I know it. The way they had it wrapped up, I couldn't see anything of my hand aside from like a pinky. So I didn't know, is the hand just mangled and it's just wrapped for whatever reason, so I don't lose my mind.
Okay.
You know, or am I missing? Like I had no idea what the hand looked like.
Yeah.
And I couldn't move this arm because it got this big foam thing, and I had pins in the hand, so I couldn't move it.
Because that one got pretty mangled too.
Yeah, so I'm missing part of my palm on top, skin grafts. I had pins in my hands. I couldn't move it. Missing part of my forearm. I had a skin graft here. So this one's just all just out there, but I can visually see I still got a hand and an arm and whatever. It wasn't until a little later, not too much later, but it wasn't until a little later that they let me know like, no, it's you just got a pinky there, like that's it. And
so this blast went straight up your body.
Yeah.
And that's what lifted you into the canal. And
yeah,
then
it blew my weapon to pieces, my gear to pieces, blew me to pieces. It just blew everything just to pieces.
How long was it before you got to look at your hand?
Not too long.
What was that like, looking at this hamburger mitt?
Yeah, it was. Part of me was like, why? Like, why keep it? Like, this thing is hideous.
Really? Well, so you had a pinky and that was it? All this is gone?
Yeah, so the blast took my thumb, my index finger, and it mangled my middle finger and ring finger.
What do you mean by mangled? It was just, they were just hanging there?
It was kind of there. Like, the bone wasn't together.
Okay.
The tendons were barely together, but it was basically hanging on by skin. And half my palm was there, like, gone. So what was left was basically half my palm. Like, if you took, like, a marker or a pen and you went at an angle from like the webbing between your middle and ring finger.
Okay.
And you went diagonal to the other side of your wrist. That was what was left of my palm.
Oh.
Yeah. Like part of like my forearm was missing. So they ended up taking muscle and skin from my back, and they used it to kind of forge back like the rest of like my arm.
Okay.
And like my palm. And so it looked like this ugly granny flap type of thing, and I had no motion in it, and it was just, my pinky was bent because I lost motion in there, and it was just this hideous looking thing.
So you were telling them to take it?
Yeah. I was,
Were they fighting you on this? Did they want you to keep whatever you could, or were they agreeing with you and it was a pretty easy process?
Initially, I want to say my parents might have had like some pushback on it, I believe, because they were like, you could use it to push doors open, or you can use it for whatever. They were essentially like saying, don't make any rush judgments to just start hacking away at your body because, any little bit can help. And I could see where the thought was in that, like you could use it for this or that or whatever it was, but I literally had no use out of it. But it wasn't until months later that I ended up having that amputated.
Okay. What's that like? I mean,
what?
You just go to, you have, obviously you want it gone, but they put you under and you wake up and then you're down to, just above the elbow.
Yeah. I was ready for it to be gone. So
okay.
I was like, just take it.
Yeah.
Because at the time I had like bone spurts and things like that to take care of as well. And my thought was, if I can just get it taken off, then I get a regular prosthetic.
Okay.
Before that, it was like this Michael Jackson type of glove, just fit over it, and it was just this hideous looking thing. And I was like, just take it. I get like a normal arm. I can be like a normal looking person. So I ended up having them amputated, and it was not. It's a hard decision to be like, just hack away, pieces of my body.
For sure.
But at the same time, it was an easy choice to make because I had no use out of it. So waking up and seeing it was all like swollen. It looked like a little billy club that I just, but it was fine. It took a long time to do like nerve desensitization because it was like really sensitive.
If you bumped it or touched it or anything?
Yeah.
What did it feel? Was it like shocking pain that went through you?
Yeah, just like if you would have taken a hammer and like hit your finger.
Oh, and you're feeling everything.
Yeah, because all your tendons and things and your nerves are still there, and for the last 19 years it was connected to a hand, so it's still trying to fire off and figure where that part is of you.
Okay.
So it took a little while to get desensitized.
How do they desensitize the nerves?
You get like a box of Legos and you just roll it around. or you get
Literally?
like rocks. Swear to God, or you get like rocks or like little pea gravel, little anything that's like kind of jagged or has got some texture to it. You just put it in there and you just kind of roll it around, and just after a while, your body just kind of gets used to it, and it desensitizes.
That's modern science, is sticking your hand in a box of Legos to desensitize the nerves in your hand, or
yeah.
tip now, nub, whatever you're going to call it.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. It's not like some medicine in a shot that they're putting in there or anything like that.
Nope, that's what I had to do.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
how long does that last? I mean, how long does it take to...
I mean, everybody's different.
Okay.
It just depends. I don't think it took that long.
Okay.
But it was a funny, kind of interesting process. I mean, you think like occupational therapists and physical therapists, most people think, oh, it's this way, it's that way, it's by the book, it's this and that. A lot of those men and women are thinking on the fly and are pretty ingenious on like the ways they can get their patients to recover and get back to mobility and things like that.
Oh, shit.
Interesting, yeah.
So knowing now and gone years of not having the rest of your hand, do you think you made the right decision?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
Do you think you would have? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
No questions?
No, I was out there looking like Frankenstein. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, my wife was a saint. She was like, yeah, I'd marry you. All right. Like,
there we go.
Yeah. No, definitely right decision. Because now I can have a prosthetic, and
yeah,
I got an arm that I use to like work out. I got a prosthetic I can use to pick things up that looks like a hand. And I get a lot more options to do things with the regular prosthetics than I did with just kind of a slide over glove type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I could see that. Why'd they take so far down? Was it because you were missing that much of your forearm?
Yeah. So basically, from here up to my palm was like what they had to recreate. And that's what they took from my back, that muscle and that skin, to recreate it. So if you think from here to here was like just like the underside of your arm, like just a gelatin granny flap type looking thing.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. So if you just imagine taking that chunk of skin and meat and just slapping it right there, that's what that looked like. Really? Yeah. So it was just this hideous looking deal.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So as far as your legs, I mean, you're learning first. Were you left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
So you have to learn all that over again.
Yeah. And not only that, I shattered my palm. And so I had to get mobility back in my hand first prior to learning to write. And not that I had elegant handwriting or had perfect handwriting before, but now my handwriting is just absolutely terrible. And they had to put these big foam, like the pool noodles?
Yeah.
So, like, stuff like that, like on the ends of pens and pencils for me to grab, because I didn't have the dexterity and the movement in my hand.
Really?
So in the beginning, all I had was that.
And so you're...
and so I'm learning to write like that. There's a meme of a kid, and he's like writing. He's like scribbling down. That's what it looked like. I'm like trying to hold it. I'm like trying to write. Was
it pretty frustrating?
Yeah. In the beginning, because I think teenagers have no patience for anything.
For sure.
By this point, mentally and emotionally was not in a great place.
Mm-hmm.
Just very angry, not at the situation itself necessarily, but angry like, now I'm going to miss out on like so much in life, because at night I'm not even legally able to drink yet, and I'm disabled. And so just looking at it like long term in the beginning did not look bright for me.
Yeah.
And so I was angry a lot of times. I didn't have the patience for a lot of stuff, especially going through rehab, like walking and stuff like that.
What was that? So being I don't want to say you're probably hating the world, but it probably felt like you were hating the world at this point. What's it like trying to get back on prosthetics for the first time and learning how to walk all over again?
Being young really worked in my favor in that regard.
Okay.
Because I had all the energy to get up and do things. It was just frustrating because it's a slow process, right? They first, you get casted and you get your prosthetics, and then they get you to stand up, and that's all you do for the day or week or whatever it is you just stand, and you're working on your balance, and then the next week it's you might take a couple steps, but then you're working on your balance, and so it's a long process. And I think in that regard it was a little frustrating, but it was cool to me because every step I was taking was I'm getting my independence back just that much more. So I looked at it that way, and it wasn't as frustrating.
Okay.
The only thing I got frustrated with was going up and down stairs. One of my prosthetics has the ability to has like a step mode. So it, depending on how I move the leg when I'm walking, I can make it, step up.
Okay.
And could never grasp the concept of doing that up and down the stairs. And my PT, physical therapist guy, that's all he wanted to do. He wanted to work on it, right? Like repetition makes, muscle memory, and you can get it and this and that. And I just didn't have the patience for it. So him and I would just go at it all the time. And I was like, I'm not doing this, And it got to the point where he just stopped doing that, because I would refuse. He's like, "You're going to go walk stairs. Well, go have fun. I'll be here when you get back."
Yeah.
And so he eventually got to the point where it's like, it's one of those, I'll take the horse to the water, I can't make the horse drink it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was the horse in that regard. I was just like, no, bucking everything. And but eventually I got through it, ended up getting those little running legs, running for a little bit. But it was a process. I mean, I got through it relatively quickly in the grand scheme of things.
What's relatively quickly? Are we talking 6 months, a year, 2 years? Like, what's quick to lose one above, one below the knee? How quick were you up and running again?
I would say about a year, a little less than a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's including having to go through like another surgery for bone spurts.
What are bone spurts? Explain those.
So bone spurts is where your bone is continuing to grow X amount of length or whatever post the amputation. And I mean, regular people get bone spurts too, not just people who are missing things. But basically it's just bone growth, this extra bone growth. And sometimes it can come out jagged, which can be painful, cut through skin and things like that.
And that's what yours did, was pushing through?
Yeah, so it pushed through the skin a little bit. It was painful, but not where I couldn't do anything. It was one of those where it could get worse over time, which is why I had it, operated, shaved down, and things of that sort.
Yeah.
But I know some people have just extreme issues with bone spurts. Mine wasn't that severe, but I had it shaved down anyway, and I haven't had an issue since.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear some guys where it starts corkscrewing and they got it coming out sides and all over the place. So after you were where? Not Walter Reed. I mean, where did you go for recovery?
I went to the CFI in San Antonio. And
Okay.
so that's a part of, it was called BAMC while I was there. It was Army Medical Center.
Yeah.
And I think they changed the name recently, but I'm just going to go with BAMC for the sake of ease. But it's called BAMC. And it's a joint military base, but Army hospital. So you got Lackland is right down the street. Got Army base, got a Marine detachment there, Navy's there, like kind of a joint force type of deal. And so I did my recovery at the Center for the Intrepid, which was, I'm sure it's still pretty state of the art, but it was state of the art at that time. I think they built it in like 2007, 2008. And I got there in 2011, so it was still relatively new facility. It was pretty cool. It was a cool place to be.
So after there, that's where they're fitting you for prosthetics.
Right.
You're getting amputated. Any other surgeries till you're pretty good to go, and then they send you back to a unit. Or how does it work being blown up or wounded in the military? Then you gone through your initial medical process. Then what's the next step for you?
Yeah, so you have the option to stay in the military. You have the option to get out.
Okay.
And they allow you to make, no, they're not making, they're not persuading you one way or the other of which way to go. So it's really up to the individual. I know a guy who's missing both legs, and he decided to stay in, both legs above the legs, above the knees. And last I learned, he's still active duty.
Yeah.
He might even still be on Pendleton, I think.
Okay.
But a good majority of the men and women, they just decide to, get out, exit stage left, and go about their business. And so they gave me the option when I was in Bethesda, I think, prior to transferring to Texas, they came in and were like, look, like what are your plans? 'Cause I can only assume it's a lot of paperwork to get an injured individual back into a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, look, can I stay in the infantry? You know, and my family's like, are you serious right now?
So after everything you went through, you just wanted to stay in and still be...
I was drinking the Kool-Aid,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I don't care who you are, military, all the infantry dudes, you know, they walk around like, oh, I don't want to be a pogue, I don't want to do this and that, I want to be the infantry, and they're definitely drinking the Kool-Aid, you know. The cook is getting paid as much as I am, and I'm over here hating life, you know what I mean?
But
you know, well, as a young man,
you know,
going infantry, you're looking at it like, and I don't care who you are. Every young man is looking for some type of glory. Like they want that moment, and that's why they keep getting this influx of infantry, got like young infantry dudes in the military, whether it's Army, Marine Corps, whatever it is, because you all this testosterone, and they want that moment of glory. Not that I was like glory chasing, but like that's the mindset of a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, and still drinking the Kool-Aid. I was like, I don't want to be a fucking pogue. Like I want to go back to infantry, and that was my only option. Was if you go back to the unit, you're not going back to your unit.
You're going admin.
We're putting you admin or something else because you physically can't.
They're going to stick you in a hazmat lot somewhere checking out.
Right. I mean, you physically can't hump these mountains. Yeah. You physically can't hold your weapon. You know, there's certain things that are required in the infantry realm that you just physically not going to be able to do. I don't care what you say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nope, if I can't be infantry, then I got to get out. And so that's what happened.
Do you regret that? Do you think you should have just rolled over?
There's times where I was just like, man, I should have just, because in hindsight's always 20/20.
For sure.
You know, I'm looking at it now like, sure, I would have loved to have done 20 years. But I don't know if that was the case. If I would have been like, yeah, let me go into this other role where the Marine Corps wants to send me,
mm-hmm.
if I would have liked that role, right? Hindsight's 20/20.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I just said no. You know, I exit stage left and got the process started to get out of the military.
Do you get paid when you get blown up? Does the military take care of you, or are they just like, have a nice life?
Like,
is there any compensation for being a triple amputee?
Yeah, so if you get injured on while you're active duty, I think depending on the severity of the injury, I'm assuming you get like an insurance payment because you're insured.
Okay.
So I'd gotten that, you know, and
is it a nice chunk? I mean, does it make you feel?
It's a nice bit.
Okay.
You know? A lot more money than a 19-year-old should have.
All right.
You know, it's just like when military members like they pass away and actually their families get like a big chunk of money. So same deal, a lot smaller than what those families get, rightfully so,
mm-hmm.
but still enough that you're not worrying about your bills at the moment, you know.
I've never asked anybody that, and I've always been curious if they're just like, thanks for your service, Lance Corporal Galvan. Like, there's the door, and then you're just leaving with two legs and not missing an arm left.
Yeah, so you get your insurance payment.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of men and women they go and blow it, so have nothing to show for it, and you know they're in line at the soup kitchen trying to figure life out. So.
For sure. I see that. That's probably a very typical veteran thing to do.
Oh, for
since
sure.
None of us are set up to help learn finances and investing.
No, and I don't know why they don't.
Yeah.
You get your little MCI, and you're just like, okay, cool. But you're also, even if you do get the opportunity to sit these men and women in a class, maybe 3 out of 40 people are going to take it seriously.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody else is looking at the clock, waiting to go and, you know, cruise the strip and, you know, get a pizza or something.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I get it. At least, I mean, it should be offered. I feel like, in some point.
I agree. Whether you're talking to a bunch of, you know, glue sniffers or not, I think making that resource available to them
mm-hmm.
is better than not offering it all.
For sure. And being in an infantry unit, that's probably the absolute last thing that's on any leadership's mind there.
Right.
So now that you're back, you're in the hospital, You're learning how to walk. You're getting discharged from the Marine Corps. What's life looking like? I mean, you're 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
You still got a really good chick. So
Yeah.
your wife now is an absolute saint.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she was in high school.
You're going to put me in jail now.
Yeah, you're past that limit.
Yeah.
She stuck by you all these years. That's a pretty incredible woman.
Man, she's a saint. I would not be here without her, and I know that's kind of cliche to say, but absolutely the truth. Through a lot of dark moments and never, not once, given up on me. She's always taken the approach of, I'll give you your space to figure your shit out, but I'm not leaving you. Like I'm here when you're ready to talk and discuss whatever you need to talk and discuss about. You can have your space. You can, drink yourself crazy and, go and do that drug or whatever. And but when you're ready, I'm here for you.
How long did it take for you to be ready? I mean, you had to have gone through some pretty dark times. Yeah. Obviously, rightfully so. Being a teenager, your whole life's turned upside down. Yeah. But you got a good chick by your side. I mean,
yeah.
Did it take a while before you got in a groove?
Not too long. So I had a fight to leave the hospital to even go back out to California and kind of start life and things like that. But once I got there, I was pretty much lost. I didn't know what to do. And she was like, just go to school. Just get out of the house. You drive me crazy, because we had an apartment at the time. And I was like, well, I don't know what to study. And she's like, just go. And I was like, well, none of my family's ever been to college. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know how to do a college transcript or write for a grant or whatever. She's like, I'll help you out. So she helped me write stuff for college, get accepted to college, how to navigate that. I had to do all the navigating stuff on the VA on myself, but to actually like submit the application and things like that for college, she was like, held my hand to everything. And, and then I got in the groove at school, and I like to learn. It's like a 180 from me in high school, where I was just like, I didn't mind learning in high school. Like, I wasn't like a terrible kid. Like, I had good grades, but I was just
not your thing.
I didn't care. But when I got to college, I was like, well, I mean, this is kind of cool. Like, I could, learn whatever I want to learn, kind of thing.
Is it weird going to college? Being a veteran, triple amp, trying to fit in with these college kids that are probably like all against everything that you just fought for. Did you run into any of that at all?
In community college, I did. So I was in the beginning. I was taking class at community college, so I didn't take them all at the state college. So I could like save my funding from the VA and not waste it all. I was trying to like figure out how I can get the most bang out of my buck for school. Yeah. So I was taking all my like general ed classes at the community college. That way they transferred over to the state college. I can just go straight into my major. Mm-hmm. There was one class I took. It was a writing class? It must have been a writing class. And there was this one guy in there, and long hair. Remember the Titans? Mm-hmm. Sunshine? It was the guy with like the Ryan Gosling, I think is who it was. Long hair. He was like the quarterback. Okay. That's what that dude looked like. It just this long hair. He rode like he had a motorcycle helmet, and it was probably a gay motorcycle anyway. Wasn't even like a cool lid he was carrying into class. It was like this gay like
little Vespa.
Yeah, like a little turtle shell like. And I forgot what the assignment was, but we started getting into talks of like the military, and I'm not one to be like, well, I was in the military, I know how it goes. Like, I was just like, leave me the fuck alone. So I'm like in the back trying to
do your thing,
stay to myself. And the teacher, so she was like asking him, and he had some pretty wild assumptions or thoughts, and I was just like, this tool. And the teacher, it's hard to like, because I hardly wear pants. I'm wearing pants now, but I'm always like in shorts. Yeah. So I'm always like picked out, like they know, like there's only one way this guy this young is looking like that unless he got bit by a shark. So he's saying like all this off the wall stuff, and then she's like, so what do you think about it? And I was like, fuck.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, and so I gave my bit, and he was like, "Oh no, this and that," and it got to the point where I was like, "Look, bro, like, you're wrong. I can just, you're wrong. Just simmer down." And it ended up getting heated. Like we were screaming. I ended up taking off my prosthetic, and I handed it to him. And then I was like, "Now say that stupid shit you're saying."
Really?
Yeah. I was like, now try and justify that dumb shit that's coming out of your mouth right now. And he's like, and I was like, that's what I fucking thought. I put my leg back on, grabbed my shit, and I walked out.
No shit.
Yeah. So it was like stuff like that, like early on. Like I was just like angry in like that sense, where it was like a lot of people, my peer group, just didn't understand like what was actually going on, geopolitically and things.
For sure.
And not that I'm a geopolitical whiz or like, anything like that, but it's like here they are complaining about their frappuccino being too goddamn cold and this and that, and Susie broke up with her boyfriend, and woe me kind of mentality. And I was like, I got buddies fighting for their lives right now. I got buddies laid up in hospitals that can't wipe their own rear ends, and this is what you're complaining about. And it took me a while to understand, like, everybody has a story. Two, everybody different walks of life, but because I wouldn't, that's not for everybody to go and join and see that type of stuff. Like, I can't knock them for that, but I didn't understand it because I was too young and like, like, oh, F these guys, but it didn't happen a whole lot.
Good.
But that was one time.
Yeah.
And then it happened another time when I was in grad school. And so, yeah, it's just, it was odd because it was another veteran, but it was like a veteran from like way back in the day.
Oh.
So he had his own like opinions, and again, I was trying to stay out of it.
Yeah.
And he was the one who's like put me on the spot, and I was like, why? Like, you don't want my opinion. Like, it's just, you could have just said what you said. The class could have been like, yeah,
leave me alone.
Just chill, man. And we could just let it go. But now you calling me out.
Got to bring me into it.
Yeah, and I didn't even want to be. It was, college was cool. Like I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed going.
Yeah.
But it was an experience. But they had a pretty big vet center presence on campus, which was cool. So a lot of veterans hung out in the vet center, did a lot of work there, kind of made friends with other veterans, and I kind of stayed to myself. I didn't do any like crazy parties at school or anything like that, because with my wife, so I'd do my work at school, stay as long as I need to, and then go home.
Got it.
That was it. That was life.
Yeah. So at what point did we get connected during this journey of yours?
Must have been soon after I started college.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I got out in 2013.
Okay.
And then I started school fall of 2013, and then we got connected in 2014. I think like early in the year, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like shortly after I started school that I got connected with you.
And our first experience together was...
Oh, man. Yeah.
I look back on it now, and I'm just like, God bless. Like, what were we thinking?
Dude,
to invite you...
wild times.
On a Tough Mudder.
Yeah, it was a wild time. Yeah, so I'm at home, or at my in-laws, doing whatever, and I'm just there hanging out. Like, I don't have kids yet. My sister-in-law don't have kids yet. My sister-in-law was really into running like marathons and things like that at the time. She was like really into running, and so she had done a marathon in San Francisco the year prior, and she was like, "Oh, you guys should totally do it. Like, the course is flat because it was along the Embarcadero."
Okay.
Except for like the very last end, it was like a little molehill type of hill, and she's like, "But other than that, like, you can do it."
So you just not too big of an issue for you.
Yeah, well, I wasn't like a big runner. Like, I had the running legs, but it wasn't like I'm out there running every day. Like, I was like, I'll run my mouth. Okay, today I'll run my mouth. That's about as much cardio as I'll get in.
Yep.
And so I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm game. I'm trying to stay kind of active and fit anyhow. So I was like, okay, I'm game. And so she convinces myself to go, my wife to go, her sister to go, her dad, and her mom.
Okay.
My sister-in-law didn't go. I forget why she couldn't make it, but she didn't go.
Wait, so she puts the whole thing together and doesn't go, and all you end up going?
Yes.
Okay.
So I forget why she didn't go, but she wasn't there, I believe. And so we get there, and we go to, like, check in and things like that, and they give us the course map. Bro, it's like actual San Francisco hills and just steep declines. I was like, there's no way I'm running this. Absolutely no way. And so
this is not how it was presented by any means.
And so we got on the phone and we call her up and we're like, what the is this? This is not flat, you know? And she's like, I'm sorry, last year it was. I was like, this is some bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up getting my father-in-law to push me in a wheelchair up the hill. So the thing was, if it was hills, he'd push me up because I don't do hills. Hills and stairs,
not happening.
Not happening. And then on the flat bits, which wasn't a whole lot in San Francisco, I would run. I would get out and kind of jog a little bit and run. And so that was the thing. And right out the gate, boom, they let us go. Caitlin takes off. I didn't see her for the rest of the marathon.
She left you.
Left me. Just straight up left.
She's like, you got it, Dad?
And I'm like, okay, Speedy Gonzalez, like, where are we going right now?
Uh-huh.
And so I didn't see her again. And then we ended up losing my mother-in-law somewhere because she ended up getting after so long, when you go through these marathons, they start blocking off for the traffic. So they would block off the traffic for the marathon, but after you get to a certain point, they block it off so traffic can start going. Well, she got caught in one of these like block-offs and had to go a different route. So it was just me and my father-in-law the entire time.
Okay.
Like early on.
How is this dude taking it? I mean, did he go there expecting to push you, or thought you were going to run it?
No, he wasn't going to run it. He was just going to support. And we had to convince the people to let him go as like a coach.
Okay. So he gets suckered into this race.
He was not ready at all. And so he's going, and I remember, we're going up the hills or whatever, and people are like, oh, yeah, good job. And they're giving me high fives, and, and he's behind me, pushing me, just dying, just sucking wind. And I'm not a big guy, but I'm not a light guy either, so I can only imagine. God bless him.
And it's not easy. I mean, even though you're in a wheelchair, going up hills it'll wear on you.
And you're bent over, God bless him. But he's in my ear, and he's like, man, what the fuck? He's like, I'm doing the work. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm the one without legs. I don't know what to tell you. And so we get through it, and we get to the last bit. We come down this back hill, and it wraps around, and there's maybe 200 yards, maybe.
Okay.
Less than that, maybe 150 yards, maybe. And it's flat. And they got the finish line. It's got this big, like, archway. People along the sides. People, like, photographers up top.
So everybody's there.
Everybody. And I tell my father, like, hey, I'm gonna run it in. Like, I can, the least I can do is like run this last bit. You're dying back there, right? You pushed me this entire way. It was a half marathon, so it was like 13.1 or 2 or whatever miles that is.
Gross.
And a majority, 90% of it was hills. So a majority of it, I'm in the wheelchair,
just cruising, just waving at people. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. So he's like, thank God, right?
Yeah.
So I get up and I start going. And this crowd goes crazy, and they're clapping. They're like, oh, here's our veteran. They're clapping it in. And I get maybe 30 feet, and I eat it. I go down, and this crowd goes silent. You hear a pin drop. It goes silent. But the rest of the runners were just doing the Heisman, just jumping, going around, because they got to make time. It was a qualifier.
So they're just leaving you laying there?
Yeah, so it was a qualifying race for one of the big races.
Yeah. And
so they're trying to make time. And so they're like, boom, boom, jumping over me, doing the Heisman. And I eventually was able to, like, get up. And,
which
like,
probably isn't the easiest thing, missing an arm and both straight-legged.
Yeah, not in running legs either. So I look like a baby giraffe trying to stand up.
Okay.
And I just kind of walk it. I don't even like jog it back. I just like walk it in, and the crowd's like, "Oh yeah, here we go." I was like, "Man, don't even."
I don't need it.
You just watch me. You got it on camera somewhere. I just ate shit. Like I was like, "Don't." And we end up finding my wife, and I'm like, "Where did you go?" And she was like, "Well, I had to make time." I was like, "You left us at the start line." And I was like, "Man," but it was a funny experience.
Yeah.
And so after that, we get home. Well, we had set the Tough Mudder up like prior to this half marathon, and that's how I met Kyle. If the viewers remember Kyle in another episode, my sister-in-law knows him, she was like, oh, I know this guy Kyle. He's with this organization and this and that. He wants to give. Is it okay if I give him your number? I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So he calls me up and he's like, hey man, this is Kyle. You know, I'm so and so. I'm with this organization. And
he was never with us. Let's just be clear on that.
And he's like, we want to get you out and do some cool stuff. Can we set up some things? Blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, sure. So fast forward to the marathon, and then we set up the Tough Mudder afterwards. Dude, I was already broken off, and then we did a Tough Mudder, and I was just, man, that was tough.
That was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah,
was that Tough Mudder, because we all I don't know why I was fed this like, I don't want to say lie that you could run, and that it would be okay. We would just like help you through this Tough Mudder. And I feel like it was a lot like San Francisco. We started, and it was flat. We turned a corner, and then it was just ridge lines the whole day.
I don't care what anybody says. You say running anything, you put California in there, I'm not doing it. It's
oh,
hills.
Yeah.
All hills.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I don't care how many times you try to say, oh, no, like, it's going to be flat. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
Hills.
Yeah.
No.
And it was wild, man. We were not prepared for it. I mean, we had a team.
Right.
We had a really bunch of good guys, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that took us, tell me if I'm wrong, Kyle, if you remember, 6 hours, 6 or 8 hours?
It was like 8 or 9, yeah.
We started in the morning, and we were one of the last groups to finish.
Yeah.
But we did every obstacle. We did every obstacle.
I tried not to, but you were like, no, we're doing it.
Yeah. I remember we were going up. It got so bad. Your prosthetics were so heavy because we were carrying you.
Right.
We just said, fuck it, throw you on our back. We were running, and we were so raw from the sand being on your prosthetics from your thighs. Yeah. We're just wearing and dudes would just carry you as long as they could running and then just swap you out. And I'll never forget, it was like the biggest hill of the whole day where this like group of like Australian Greek gods or British Greek gods, wherever they were from, foreign.
I think by that point I dumped my prosthetics off on my wife. I was like, here, you got to take these.
Yes, we ended up just getting rid of them completely.
Yeah, like partway through the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to that hill, and you guys are just smoked. I mean, God bless, you guys are saints, but you guys are smoked, and they're like, hey, mate, we got him, and just tossed me up like a day pack, and we were just up this hill.
It's fresh.
And you guys are like, thank you. We'll see you up there in a minute.
We'll get you at the top. Yeah, that was one of those like, oh my god, we could breathe. That was rough, and it's so hard too because like, how do you sit here and bitch that we're tired when you're sitting here doing this with us as a triple amputee that like literally left everything in Afghan, and you're in this weird situation where you want to die, but you can't say anything because it's like, oh, I'm chafing because of your prosthetics from losing both your legs in Afghanistan. Like, how do you say something,
thank you know? For your service.
Yeah, thank you for service. Yeah, that was hilarious. And then we get to the very end. Dude, we had harnesses. We hoisted you up those walls.
Yeah.
We threw you down tubes that shot out into the water. Oh, yeah. You went off the plank at one point.
Yeah, you dropped me off in the monkey bars and just...
Oh, man, I think Kyle and I might have talked about that on his podcast, that I trained for months to carry you. I had this image in my head that you're just going to be hanging onto my back, and I'm just going to be just across those A-frame monkey bars, and I was going to look like the baddest motherfucker on that course. And I make it to like the third one. I'm like, you're so heavy.
Yeah. I can't do it. You got to drop off. What? Let go. And it's like, boop.
Yeah, I'm like, bail. Yeah, you fall off. You get across. I finally go in. We get you out of there.
Dude,
we
were wet from like the first obstacle.
Very first obstacle the whole way.
Yeah, because I think it was an ice plunge. The very first one was an ice plunge, I think it was.
No, we had to crawl through the mud and the barbed wire is how you started it.
Something.
There was an ice plunge. I remember you coming. I remember in the video you coming out of the ice plunge. Your face is. Yeah. You're like, nah, send me back to Afghan. I'm cool on this shit.
I had to do ice baths. But yeah, we were wet from like the start.
Yeah.
And, dude, it was miserable.
Then we did that big slide that went down into the mud. Yeah. That was right toward the end. And then we finish, and we have to go through the cattle wire.
Yeah.
You did everything you could to get out of it.
I did. And, you're like, come on, we're going to go do this. I'm like, no. He's like, no, get on my back. Get on my back. So I climb on you, and we get there, and there's two paths. Like, all the obstacles have two paths where you can do the obstacle or not. And I was like, dude, I think we just go around this one. Like, we've done enough. Like, no. We're not going to leave this one undone. We're
It's the last
and
one.
I'm like, no. I was like, we're soaking wet. Like, we're soaking wet. Let's just go around. Like, no. We're going through. And you go, boop. You take 2 steps and go, zing. And you just drop.
I wonder if they still pump as much electricity through them as they did in the early days. Because I see some clips and these guys are like, go.
Dude, there was like steam, like smoke coming off your forehead. Zing. And you just dropped. And I'm on the floor. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Because you got shocked through me.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, my God. Like, just on the ground. But then I realize, like, I'm low enough. Like, these wires are just right here.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, bet. So I roll over, and I just start crawling underneath these wires. But you're such a big person.
I didn't have that option.
No matter how low you got, you were touching the wire. So you're like,
yes.
And I got to the very end, and it had this little, like, bump, but everything was muddy. And so I'm trying to climb up it, and I keep sliding down, climbing up, keep climbing down. And so you're like, I got you, and you're pushing me. And as you do it, you get shocked, and it goes through me. It shocks me in my ass. I roll out the back, and I'm like, don't you fucking touch me.
Nobody touched me.
Yeah, and then you roll out, and I just get a boot in the head.
Yeah, I kicked you in the head. And then we just laid there for a second.
Smoke.
Like, it's over.
Yeah.
Then we get some stupid-ass headband and a little, like, I think that's all we got from that.
Yeah.
God.
I was like, never again.
Never
again.
We ended up all doing another one, not you. You opted out of that one, but we did a Vegas one right after that. And I got shocked even worse on that one, but that was a good time, man. I mean, that's something that we'll be telling our kids and grandkids.
For sure. That was the start, though. That was
the start of Wishes, man. You were right in the beginning. Those were the early days when we didn't have an absolute clue what we were doing, and we were making shit happen, and it was just meeting guys like you.
Yeah, it was a wild time. Early organization time was just a wild learning on the fly, and trying to see what works out, what doesn't, and it was cool.
We've evolved so much from then. And we look back on old photos and videos now, and it is the most cringe, embarrassing shit, like what we were doing, like asking sponsors for stuff. It was just, God, dude, it's hilarious because we never went into it with like some corporate mindset. I was just a vet, a Marine that wanted to give back. And that's all it was. That's all we were.
Right.
And it took us a long time to kind of figure out how to line things out and do it more professionally. But I mean, those early days were some of the greatest days, man.
For sure.
And that was just pulling guys out of hospitals.
Yeah, like we were talking about the other day. You found a lot of us early on, and I mean, I know you were going through your own thing. You started that organization as you got out of the military and making a lot of transitions with yourself. But you're trying to navigate life after military life, and you've come across a bunch of us, broken spirited, individuals for the most part, and I don't know what it is, man, but you just sort of got this aura which kind of gravitated towards you, and the rest was history. Like, early days was a ball.
It was, man. Yeah. It was a good time. I mean, like you, Wayne and Jared. I mean, Jared was, dude, I got to get him on. I got to get him out here.
Yeah. So he's doing great.
Doing incredible. I mean, when we met Jared, he had a partially severed spinal cord. Dude. He broke almost every bone in his body, cracked all the teeth in his head. I mean, he should not have lived. And so I met him, man. I was carrying him up and down mountains in California and in and out of a wheelchair, and now he's walking. And I mean, he's done incredible. Who else were the OGs?
We got Mikey,
Wally, Mikey. I mean, God, dude, and everybody's doing so good. It's awesome to see, especially when we say like the OG vets. So you guys were fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, you still were healing. You had sutures every night. You were doing surgeries. I mean, a lot of these guys were still healing when we were pulling them out of their houses to get them out. And
physically and spiritually, we were healing.
Yeah.
And like I said the other day, a great big part, I feel like, in our success, aside from our respective spouses, was Wishes.
Cool, man.
You found us in such a broken place, and you helped us kind of put those pieces back together. And, dude, it's been a fun ride.
It's been a hell of a ride. It's weird, now with things and slowing down and closing chapters and stuff. It was a hell of a ride, man. It was it was some fucking work. It was.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
it was some work, especially taking care of guys, and taking that burden on and helping pull them away from the wives so the wives can get a break.
For
sure. It's not easy on them. I mean,
for sure.
You're probably less than the 1% of dudes that have gone through things that you've encountered and been able to keep a loyal, loving wife.
Oh, for sure.
I said it earlier, the fact that she's fucking graduating high school and you get blown up and still like, who the fuck does that? Right. And then now it's helped you through everything.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a huge part of the downfall of veterans and their mindset is wives and spouses. I've said it on here before, and I'll take that to the grave. They make or break us for sure.
I agree. Your support system is, I would say, 90% of the battle. Like, if you got a good support system, you're good to go.
Yeah.
If your support system rocky or it's not there at all, you're not going to be doing too great.
No, and it's clear. I've seen it over the last decade with guys doing really well, and then they go through some rocky times, and wives start leaving or not happy, and then you just see everything just plummets with them so quick.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's easy for the caregivers, right? The spouses, or if they have other caregivers. I mean, there's burnout. They get tired of the same stuff, so it's good for them to get the breaks and things like that. But I mean, if you can find like a good support system that's willing to be in the trenches with you and just slug it out with you, you hit the lottery. You made it.
Do you have any advice for young kids, adults, anybody that's going through anything right now that's going to be dealing with prosthetics or just going through some traumatic injuries in their life? You're doing a hell of a job. You got a son now.
I do.
You've gone through college. You've graduated. You had a great job.
Yeah.
Family's growing. You've done a hell of a job for yourself since I met you at such a young age and watch you grow over the years.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can give advice to somebody that's going through kind of a shit time right now that you've walked those trenches?
Yeah, again, it goes back to you need a good support system. I don't care what anybody says. A lot of people are like, oh, I can do this on my own, or I'm self-made, I did this. That bullshit. You need a good support system. You need good people in your corner. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going through difficult times, whether it's a traumatic event or job changes or you're sick. If you don't have your support, you're dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So, get a good support system and just take it day by day. A lot of people try and, go their ambitions way too far out, and they lose sight of the day-to-day and the process to get there, and they get frustrated and burnt out, and then it's like, oh, it's never going to happen for me, or they start having these negative thoughts, and that's where you start spiraling. And I'm not saying don't look to the future. Don't look, a year down the road, 5 years down the road, but don't lose sight of the progress you're making on those small daily steps. And just it's one foot in front of the other, and reach out to people that are in your corner if you need to talk, need to vent, need resource, or whatever it is. But that's pretty much it. It's really hard to give sound advice in broad strokes because
for sure
everybody's situation is different. What they're going through is different. But big key for me would be like your support system, and just take it day to day, and don't lose sight of where you're trying to take it, but don't go too far in the future with it where you get bogged down with your day to day.
Bite off little chunks at a time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, set that end goal, right? Like set that end goal, but break it down and just take it step by step.
Mm-hmm. Question for you. Having a son.
Yeah.
Knowing everything that we know now as veterans.
Yeah.
Would you support him if he joined the military?
Yeah. I mean, if that's what he wanted to do, I'm not going to stop him.
Yeah.
Granted, everything that happened to me, I mean, it afforded me the ability to do a lot of pretty rad stuff.
For sure.
So if that's something he wants to do, I'm about it. We're going to sit down and have that talk, that conversation. Like, there's other branches. You don't have to just go to Marine Corps because I was there. You don't have to do infantry because that's what I did. There's other MOSs. But these are the pros and cons.
Yeah.
This is what could potentially happen. I don't know if we're going to be in a war by the time he wants to join, or if we're, what's going to be happening.
Yeah.
But really give it to him. You say, hey, look, if there's a war, you end up picking an MOS that's a combat role and you deployed, the chances, you could die.
Mm-hmm.
You could be injured and mangled like me. You can come home with a lot of emotional and mental baggage that you're going to have to process and deal with on a daily basis. You know, and just give them and talk to them that way, and just like, look, this is what it is. Like, don't just believe these posters and these commercials where you're gonna be slaying dragons in your blues.
Yeah, where the hell was that?
I don't, you know, like I don't.
I had to pay for my blues.
Yeah.
Liars.
Yeah. You know, don't just believe like the average. Like there's consequences for the actions no matter where you go. And,
Absolutely.
Just weigh the pros and cons, and if that's something that aligns to what you want to do, that looks good for you, it aligns with where you want to be, then sure.
Yeah.
We can go about it. And if it's not what you want to do, I support that too. You don't have to go to the military. You can go to trade school. You can go to college. You can do all these different things, you know, or you don't have to go to school if you don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, you know, try and be an entrepreneur. You know, if as long as you find what you want to do, your passion, I support it.
Yep.
And so if you want to go to the military or not, it doesn't bother me one way or the other way.
Good. Well, dude, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a great decade knowing you,
Dude,
and watching you grow and mature and grow a family, and it's been pretty cool. And I'm ready to watch the next decade. So
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Fucking A, buddy. Thanks, bud.
Yep.
Appreciate you as always.
Yeah, always.
Love you, buddy.
Cool.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's really good.
So good.
What's up, buddy?
Could you get a picture of him and I sitting here before you get up?